of the books that I studied, I've been talking about it recently, and I couldn't remember when I read it, and so I found it. It is Spontaneous Evolution by Dr. Bruce Lipton. He was one of my first teachers with all of this. He wrote a book called The Biology of Belief, and I was looking for it. I must have loaned it out again. I don't have it. So he wrote The Biology of Belief, and I listened to these books and then got the hard copy. And Bruce Lipton is just an incredible teacher. So I highly recommend those two books. And he wrote one called The Honeymoon Effect that's really good as well. So he was a very strong foundation of a lot of what I do. And I kept telling people recently that this book, Spontaneous Evolution, that he wrote a part in it that he basically, in what he said is, there's all these systems that we have that are no longer sustainable. And then he wrote more things about that. And I kept thinking, I need to go back to this book. And he wrote this thing in 2009. Like, they literally wrote it as 2008 was happening. And that whole financial debacle that many of us got really messed up in. I know Nick and I were both entrepreneurs, so it's like if nobody's spending money, nobody's spending money. And it was just a hard moment for us. You know, it was like people were canceling out on everything. So he wrote this book, Spontaneous Evolution, in the midst of that with another guy by the name of Steve Behrman. And he is that guy who's a comedian, and I forget the name of him right at the moment, but the two of them put this together in such a way that it was very interesting for me at the time, and it was really educational. So one of the things that Bruce Lipton does, hey, Kim and Jennifer, nice to have you guys joining me. I'm just getting started with the meat of the matter today, and I'm talking about Greg Braden. I've been talking about this book, Spontaneous Evolution, for a while, so I dragged it back out again, and I wanted to kind of give you the basic message from my point of view and why I think it's so important right now. So I think he was also I think when I read this book, I really understood that thing about the caterpillar. And that's why on the transformation part of my tools, it has the rolled up caterpillar and the butterfly and the heart and the world. So he was a very strong beginning part of all of that. And what he said is when the caterpillar, and you got to think about a caterpillar, it's just riding the road. You know, it's got its face down and it's just on it. And it's just doing the business of life. It's eating, digesting, and letting go. You know, for those of us that have seen a caterpillar, like I used to have tomato plants, and it's like they just eat. And it just is like one thing goes through and there's not a lot else going on. So sometimes we're in our caterpillar mode and we're unconsciously unconscious. And we're just in that survival kind of mode. So then he talks about when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, that it has imaginal cells. And so those imaginal cells, all the rest of the caterpillar, I mean, think about it. It completely changes. It completely transforms. And those imaginal cells, all the rest of it dies off. And those little cells in there know exactly what to do. They know exactly how to recreate the whole body of this thing into this butterfly. And so I'm thinking it might be an interesting process. I mean, imagine if we were to be having all of our cells die off. And I mean, that doesn't seem like it would feel very good. But in the end, the benefit when you go through that transformation, you're no longer just this caterpillar that is creeping along. Now you're coming out of that cocoon and you're expanding your wings and you're seeing from a whole new vantage point. You're free to do so much, much more. So when you're going through the kind of process that you do here, you know, there's a part within us where we have our own imaginal cells, And as you go through the process of changing your beliefs and doing new actions and, you know, talking differently, looking at your past differently, perceiving things in a new way, you create your own new imaginal selves. With each of these things that goes through, you're creating that greater and greater and greater part of you. So how this comes into effect today. Hi, Audie. Nice to have you in the house. I need to take a peek if... Oh, am I cutting in and out? Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Thank you for letting me know that I'm cutting out. Maybe I'm zipping back and forth too much. So how that relates in this book, Spontaneous Evolution, thanks, Jennifer. How that relates is that we are all in the, let's call it the earth. It's a bunch of cells. We're all cells on the earth. And there are those of us that are more imaginal cells. We are those people who are the people who are more awake in this moment, the people who are doing the work to recognize the fear, process the fear, and come to a new perception, new actions, new way of being. So the people who are imaginal cells, like Bruce Lipton is very much an imaginal a cell. And people that understand that information that he shares in all those books, or any of the other people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden, who is my first foray into all of this. And, you know, there's so many other teachers that have just been those imaginal cells that help to, you know, shine a little brighter and be a little braver and do the things it's like that are necessary to keep yourself lined up and continually owning the resilience and moving forward. So chances are, if you're watching this, you're an imaginal cell. Imaginal cells are people who live in love. You know, they are intentional. And I mean, I can go on and on and on about what imaginal cells are, but in the moment that we're looking at in history, you can see where there's a lot of people who are imaginal cells. Like some of the people that I watch with the news that I watch, they're imaginal cells. They're being very brave and they're sharing information that most people aren't looking at. And then you can see that there are people who are more like a cancer cell. I don't even need to go into the details of that, but I think we all know that there's a lot of, let's just say, shenanigans that are going on, and it's important to recognize imaginal cells that are very light, they win. And the more, and why it's important, and one of the things that this book talks about is the more that we are aware of who we are and our power to create in our community, because we're all in this big community together. It's like kind of like we're all one big caterpillar for a while until we start going into those cocoons and start realizing, this is how to be in life. This is how to actually like do it in a way that is more fun, more, you know, intentional. Keep going back to that word because it just is. It just works. So all of us being in this together, it's important that we're aware of what is kind of like going on so that we can kind of gather and be a little brighter together. You know, if you've got a light over here and you got a light over there and you got a light over here, if you look up in the sky and the stars, those little lights on their own, they don't put out so much together. But if you gather a bunch of them in one, it's going to be a lot brighter. It's going to be a lot more potent. So when Bruce Lipton is talking in this book, I want to read a few things that I marked in here because I want to talk about them with you. Selena's in the house. Hi, Selena. Selena, she's doing some great work here too. She's putting together a new group on Sundays. And Selena, if you want to write a little quick description in there, you're better at that part than me. And she's just now putting it together, but Selena is another powerhouse with us. Yay. She's doing hypnosis here too. So if you are having some challenges and want some hypnosis for overcoming a lot of things, check out her page on our Newmont Center about, and there's information on her there. So I don't have my other fancy glasses, so you're going to have to deal with these today. All right. So it's Swami, this is the guy's name. So I said before, his name is Steve Behrman. All right, so he does a comedy thing, or he did back then. I don't know if he still does. And his name is Swami Beyondananda. And he wrote, there's a quote in here, and it's the chapter 4, Rediscovering America. And he wrote, this is back in like 2008 they wrote this. We don't need a revolution in the United States. We already had one, thank you. What we need now is an American evolution where we, the people, evolve into the citizens the country founders dreamed of. One of the things that I'm thinking about when I read that, and again, I'm going to talk about stuff on here that I haven't been talking about, and it's not stuff I'm like making up. I'm going to be very honest about a few things. And one of them is, it's mind-bending how many videos I'm seeing of people committing violence, like out of nowhere, against another person. Like there was a girl that's just sitting at a desk. Another girl came up behind her and just clocked her with a book, a big book, and then just started beating her. And there was another one where a guy is just talking with this other guy, and out of nowhere, he thought it was amusing, actually, you can tell, and out of nowhere, he just clocked him. And it's looking like there's a lot more of that going on, where people are just not having any understanding or any awareness of how we are connected, and how that kind of thing is just not only destructive for that person and all the people around them that are witnessing that trauma, but the person that's doing it, it's almost like they don't get that they're not even a caterpillar. They're like the caterpillar's shit. You don't want to be in that place in life, and they have no idea. So I'm seeing a lot of that going on, and it's important that when they say here, we the people evolve into the citizens the country founders dreamed of. And so there's a part of it when I'm looking at all of that, that did not used to be. I mean, when I was growing up, that would be like unheard of. And now you can see it scrolling through the various kind of news that I look at. So why do I bring it up is because I think it's important to recognize what that is and put the kind of attention on it that puts it into a place where we can do something with it. Because a lot of people will look at that and go into their own fear around it. Oh my God, that happened to me. Or they go into their judgment about the person, or they'll go into usually something in the very negative part. And that would be our natural instinct. That would be that thing that would be like, of course, that's what we would do. And when you do that, then your awareness and your attention is on the problem. And if it goes into fear about your own physical safety, it really goes into the problem. And we're creating all the time. So you want to keep your consciousness, you want to keep your awareness on, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be that person that holds that space and trusts and knows that this person who's obviously out of their mind that somehow they're finding their way back into their mind, or somehow they're finding their way into a place where their mind can be managed. So I don't put it into the fear side of it. I put it into somehow or another, we the citizens, we the people, being that light, shining it on there. It's not shining it on there for that to be more magnified. It's shining the light on it to be holding it in the highest. And believe me, I am well aware that what I'm asking is not the easiest thing to do. But again, when we hear this or we see this, when we trust and know that even in that, believe it or not, there is still the presence of God. It is just very, very dark in there. And so when we shine our light on things like that, rather than going into where we would naturally have gone in our belief systems, we're going from being in a victim anger or victim whatever into that powerful, righteous place of the one thing I can know I can do. The one thing I know I can do is hold that in the highest. And so I know I've rambled on about this a bit, but this is one of those things because we do see so much right now. I mean, I've watched the news a few times at night, and it's one thing after another where there is just this unconsciousness that is permeating. And so people will watch it and think, oh my God, that's the world. No, it's a little portion of the world, and it's the portion that they want you to see because, again, when we're in our fear, we're not thinking clearly. We're not owning our health. We're not owning everything. So I bring that up because that was my number one thing I wanted to talk about, because as I'm flipping through, it was like, what in the world? And it wasn't just 1, 2, or 3. It was a few things, quite a few. And so I really want you to get, when you're seeing something like that, throw your love on it. Selena. Sunday evening, Sacred Soul Sisters. Yes. All right, and then the other thing. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, if you have any comments, throw it out there. This is interactive. Oh, here, I marked something with a blue there. Yes, I am one of those people that writes in books. Just saying. And then I outlined, or I highlighted this originally. Oh, and this is addressing that part where people are saying that this time that we're in, because I'm just going to be very honest with you, with all the things that I'm seeing, people are talking about this is the apocalypse. People are relating this time to Revelation. People are relating this to a lot of different things. It is what it is. I just look at all of it, and I have to make sense of it in my own mind. I'm not going to go into fear around it. I'm going to find what I can see as a solution and put my attention on that. So I wanted to read this because I thought it was interesting. Originally, apocalypse meant prophetic revelation, a lifting of the veils. It represented the exposure of something hidden and has, since the time of the Greeks, been associated with revelations that would occur at the end of time. A new, or actually old, interpretation of the word suggests that by lifting the veil on our own invisible programming, we might yet avoid the inevitable train wreck that awaits us if we stay on the current track. So if you're hearing something that this is an apocalyptic kind of time, that doesn't mean it's the end of times. It doesn't mean that it's going to be this horror movie of our lives. It means that we are in a moment right now, and I see it happening. I truly see it happening. We are in a moment today, right now, where there is so much that's going on, and the veil is getting lifted. People are seeing clearly what is actually going on. And to be clear, when we say clearly, it's not if you're watching mainstream news. That is one perception, one story, one train track. All right, there's all these different train tracks, and you have to look at all of them. You just can't ride this one rail and say, oh, this is everything. This is it. You got to get off at the next junction. You got to take a look at what's going on in this thing over here and what's going on over there. And you're not judging any of it. You're just looking at all of it saying, all right, I see that's a possibility. I see that's a possibility. I see all these things that are going on. I now have an ability to choose from all those tracks. And that's what I'll do. Let me see what you guys are writing here. Jen, I think you and I are going to talk later. Because I can't go into that at the moment. Audie's writing, people do bad things, have no shame anymore. It's so much in our faces. Even people that practice satanic things aren't even hiding anymore. You're exactly right. And there are people that practice Satanism. There's people that practice all kinds of things that we look at and it's like, what? Because we don't think like that. It's not our nature. It's not who we are. So we look at that and it's like, how do they even do that? Well, how they do it is they were many times hypnotized or, manipulated into it. And, that's been a really interesting one for me in all of this that I've been learning, because there are people out there that wish other people harm, like great harm. It's a fact. And I look at those people and I look at it and it's like, it tears at my heart, especially when it has to do with children. And I have to keep finding that balance of things. And then I have to remember, they have imaginal cells. God flows through them as well. But their imaginal cells have gotten eaten up by a lot of something that's not what we deem as decent, as love, as compassion, as all the things that we look at and think, this is how we treat humanity. So they still are that I am. And it was a lot for me to get to this point, but I have to love that part of them. I don't have to like the behavior at all. I don't have to judge it. I don't have to do anything with it. I can talk about it, and that's helpful. Spirit literally said I had to, whatever. But the other part of it is, for me, for the imaginal cells that I have, to keep my body healthy, to keep me good, so that I can be doing what I'm doing in the world, I have to see it clearly. That's their choices. Whether it's conscious or unconscious, it's choices. And I have to recognize my own choice. So I'm not going to judge them. I'm not going to shine any light on them at all. Not that light, not that kind of attention light. But what I will do is share my love, share my light with that part of the love. So there's a distinct difference. And I think it's important because we're in a moment right now where we have to be clear on what we're doing. So I don't want to go in there and be furious, be angry, be any of those things, rageful, quite honestly. I have been. And I had to be with that. And it's not what I'm choosing at this point. So I'm telling you, it was a lot of soul searching to find that. And I have to see that part of them that is their imaginal cells. And, that's the invitation for all of us. Yeah. You know what? This satanic practice is, it's, I think when people get it, I think when they see all of that, it's going to be quite the moment. I think that there's so many celebrities and musicians and you name it, people of influence that have been put into the area of influence because, that's what they that's what they had a choice of. And, you know, I think I saw an interview once with Katy Perry, and she had said how she started out really being like a gospel singer. And that's where she had come from in her background. And she sang gospel and she wanted to be that. And nothing was flying with it. And then she literally said, and you can see that look in her eyes, she said, and then I sold my soul to the devil. It just is what it is. So I'll love that part of her that has an inkling of it, you know, and maybe in this lifetime she'll figure it out and make a U-turn. I don't know. And it's not for me to judge. That's her life and her things. Did you see that, Audie? Yeah. Offering prayer and peace is the best we can give them. Absolutely. But I think we forget about that. And I honestly think that sometimes we've never learned that. I mean, I didn't learn it for the longest time in my life. In fact, for the longest time, I was kind of like over there in that other, you know, in that other camp. I was not leading a very conscious life. I wasn't, you know, hurting people, but I certainly wasn't conscious. So that's why I can do what I do as well. I've been there, done that. And quite honestly, working in some of the places that I've worked in with, you know, people that are challenged with addiction, you see that world. I've had people tell me things that are mind-bending. And again, you have to come from that compassion. We had this guy yesterday morning over at Milestones Ranch in Malibu. It's one of the places I worked at with Denise Klein, and she brought in this guy. Now his name is escaping me, Jonathan, and he teaches at Cal Lutheran. And he came in, he was talking about empathy, and it was very interesting. And he said at one point, you know, that we hear these stories and we see what happens when people do things that are very, very unconscious. And there's that part of us, it's like dealing with the empathy, compassion, sympathy. You know, how do you be with it all? And that's a part of this conversation tonight as well, because I pondered that after he talked. And it's like, you know, one of the first things I learned in being a practitioner, it seems like one of the first things was, you know, you see people where they are and, you know, you hold a space for them in the highest. And, you know, it's been a practice of that ever since. So with that being said, yeah, you know, that Katie did. Yeah, you know what? It's out there. And I don't think it's something that people made up. I mean, you can go in and you can see all kinds of people like Katy Perry talking about different things. I mean, you can just look at some of the videos that have been made lately. I mean, we've talked about this. I don't need to go whale deep into this subject, but, you know, it's at a point where if we're putting our attention on it in the fear category, then we're literally supporting them. And that's the intention. They want everybody to be like that. They want everybody to just be chaotic, destructive, you name it. That's it. Patrick Lockwood. Thank you very much, Connie. He was great, and I'm thinking I would like to have him come here and talk at Newmont Center, or maybe I'll see if he wants to join me on my conscious mind tripping one night. How would you guys like this guy to come and join me here? I think that'd be good. So let me finish. So that's what I was talking about with the apocalyptic business. I have all these little markers in here. Let me get to the next one. What do I want to share with you that was in here? Okay. So one of the things that made me pick up this book is he kept saying in the book that this old system that we were in is not sustainable. So what does that mean? It's like our financial system. Obviously, it's not sustainable because we are in a deep dive right now. I mean, we just gave another, 500 billion to Ukraine that we're literally, I think, borrowing. All right. Our dollar is not worth very much at the moment. By the way, that billion that we just gave to Ukraine, do you realize what that's paying for? Is some of their pensions? What? It was like, the president said it. I mean, I'm not making this up. He also said some of the other places that they're spending money, and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, we have a lot of people here in the United States that are massively struggling, living on the streets, really struggling, and we're borrowing money to give them 500 billion. And what's going on over there anyway? It doesn't look like all the money that we put into it is making much of a difference. So our financial system is not doing well. So 2009 and 2008, when he wrote it, I don't think he was looking at a crystal ball, but I think he knows that if you have something that's not backed by anything, it's gonna not do well at a period of time. So hold on one second, my light went off. There's something I want to read there. So needless to say, the financial system, the health system, the political system, the school system. Have you looked at how many school board meetings people are fuming? I mean, there's a lot going on with the school system and the environmental system. There's so many things that are in the process of collapsing. And you guys are writing, exactly, Kimberly. Believe me, I'm getting to that. So Kimberly said, and they've done nothing about the train wreck here. I think you said you live about 13 miles from that train wreck. And then Audie, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Audie says it's probably not even going to those people, dirty politicians, money laundering. Well, you know that, and I know that, but you know what? They're not going to put that on the news. So FTX, they put the money over there. This FTX, it's a Bitcoin type of thing. They're laundering the money, and it's amazing if you look at how many of our politicians, they get paid X amount of money, and it seems like they got a lot of stuff. And where are they getting all that money for their stuff? I don't know, but it's important to look at it. So she lives 8 miles from that train wreck. So with this understanding that these systems are not doing well, there's a part of it where he's talking here about the financial system. Now remember, this is back in 2008 that they're writing this. And I wanted you to hear this because I thought it was fascinating. He's talking about, as one example, Stephen Zarlenga of the American Monetary Institute has proposed a monetary reform platform that would likewise resonate with populist conservatives, libertarians, and America's founders. So when he's saying that everything is not sustainable anymore, what he said in there was the system needs to collapse. And I remember reading that and going, what? How are you going to collapse the finance? How are you going to collapse all these things? What? How do you even do that? So in the collapse, what he's saying is you want to have another system that is put in place. So listen to this. You ready? Okay. All right, so he says, number one, are you ready? End the private creation of money by the Federal Reserve Bank and replace it with debt-free money that reflects the value of the general wealth of the nation. 2, end the fractional reserve banking system and allow banks to make money by lending only money they have on hand. What a novel idea. 3, add new money to the system, not as debt, but as national grants to rebuild the infrastructure and thus create jobs that create real value. Well, it just so happens that there is a thing that is created, and it's a new quantum financial system. So you got to remember something. Everybody's on board with this, getting digital, getting in the digital currency. So the Federal Reserve has created DC, digital currency, DC, something like that. It's 4 letters, and I can't think of them at the moment. Maybe one of you that knows this answer will put it in there for me. So they've created this digital currency, and they want to make sure that everybody's on it, and they want to make it across the globe so that everybody's like on the same page. And the challenge is, again, I don't think it's backed by anything, and they're the ones in control of it. So if you don't do something, they could say, well, you're not doing it, we're not going to let you have your money. I don't think that's very much freedom personally, so I don't think that that's the option that I want to go with. But there is another thing that is already created, the quantum financial system, and it is backed by gold in the form of XRP, and silver is XLM. And it's already in the works. It's already built. It's already got all this stuff going on with it. So the one backed by gold, the XRP is like the bank, and the XLM is like the currency, and you buy tokens, and you can buy all these thousands of, I think thousands at this point, of companies that are already listed. So you're investing in their companies. But again, it's a whole new system that's already in place. So if the old system goes, here's something new that's already in place. Another thing that he was talking about, this has happened once before in our lifetime for many of us, where they did a currency revaluation. And it's called an RV, a revaluation of currency. And so there's a whole bunch around this as well. It's already, I think, in action. It's already a lot loaded up into it. This is what I hear from many, many, many sources, and it's supposed to even out the currency across the globe. But I think in order for this to happen, the other thing needs to not be in line. So time will tell with all of this. I can say this, and I'm just saying it because I see all of this news, and I have a fundamental understanding of it. I've got a really good friend of mine that gives me information on it, and she explains it very well for me. But in basic Audrey language, there is something already lined up, like Bruce Lipton was talking about. So when you're choosing the train tracks, there's a part of this where you want to be intentional with your money. So diversify, have cash on hand in case of emergencies, have maybe some money put into this, some money put into that, diversify so that you don't have all your money in one place. Heaven forbid that place doesn't exist at a point or goes well away. I don't know. But diversify is important, because then you are using that part of you. It's like, all right, so Imaginal cell here. I want to make these choices that will hold me into the future. Let's see who's saying something here. Kimberly is talking about that train accident. I'm going to get to that in like a couple of minutes. In fact, that's what I'm going to go into now, because I think it's super important. I'm going to give you the basics of all of this. I'm not going to go into, if you want to look for yourself, you can go in and do some investigative work on all this, but I'm going to give you the basics. So that train derailment, I started looking at trains in our country and money for safety. So the trains in our country, back when, you'd have a train derailment every now and again. And since that train derailed, I don't remember the date at the moment, but it was like somewhere around February 3rd, I think. Number one, they didn't do anything for them at first as Kimberly just said. She said, we're fine. We didn't even smell or see the smoke. I think it blew the opposite way from you, where you were. But yeah, she said, and they've done nothing about the train wreck here. From what I'm understanding, well, I'm going to say that in a minute. Go back to what I'm saying about these trains. Number one, for the love of God, why are they transporting all of these massively toxic chemicals? Critical thinking. Why are they loading these things up and taking them across our country? Why? I don't know the answer to that one. I would love an answer to that. Number two, one of the things that people who have been working in the train industry for a long time, people in the unions and whatnot, they have been complaining because they make the trains too long. And making them too long, it makes it very dangerous. They should cut the trains shorter to make it more safe, but then they're not going to make as much money. The more that they put on that one load, the more effective, the more money that they make. So that hasn't been addressed. The other thing, the systems. I saw this video, and it's one of many, but you see a train coming down the track, and it's literally, you can see the track is all, wavy. So this thing's coming down, and it's just riding this wavy trail. Why are we putting money in other places when we can't even fix that? That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, that's one of the things. If you are going to be carrying toxic mess, wouldn't you make sure that the rails are clean and pristine and ready to go so there ain't nothing that's going to happen with that? I don't know. But if you look at how many train derailments and toxic fires that have happened since February 3rd, it's crazy. There was another one today, and I don't know that they're showing you that on the news, but I'm going to talk about it because we can't make our valid choices on things if we don't know what's going on. Yeah, that's a part of it. That's customs if you use trains. Oh, and Connie's sharing a thing from Del Bigtree, who has the highwire.com. That's excellent to watch. Thank you for sharing these things. So it is one after the another. So again, why do I even bring this up is because they're also saying that on some of these train tracks, there have been lead bombs, pipe bombs. I just saw another thing just today, I guess it maybe happened this morning, where this huge truck parked right on the railway tracks. I mean, what are the odds that you're going to run out of gas right there? Sometimes when there's too many things that are happening, it gets past the point of, oh, this is a coincidence, to could we be under attack? If we are, then each of us that is an imaginal cell hold in the highest that it's getting revealed. Each of us that are imaginal cells, be more aware. Each of us that are imaginal cells, share with somebody in a way that they can hear you, not coming from a terrified place, but hey, this is just a moment. We're going to go through it. We're in it, kind of, we're in it. And we are going to go through it. And everything that's happening now, I keep telling you every week, I truly believe that it is designed to get rid of this old system that has not been working, that in my lifetime has gotten exponentially worse, even in the past 5 years. I know you guys see this. And I don't want to blame all of it on this thing that we all just went through. There's another part of it where many of our kids, people are, I don't know if you've noticed it, but over the last few years, horror movies dark stuff. That's been the norm to see on TV. It's been the norm to go to the movies to see. And we just think it's, oh, this is like, oh, it's exciting, it gets me feeling, it gets that energy revved up. It's like, ooh, what's going to happen next kind of thing. But we all have to remember, when you're watching that dark stuff, or you're listening to that kind of music that's talking about rape and murder and death and drugs, it's no accident that our medical system is overloaded with people who are dying from fentanyl. It's no accident. This never happened in my lifetime. Why is it so accessible? You can look that up. You can start digging in the information of where's it coming from. Could it be an open border where all these people are coming through not checked? Are they the ones that could possibly be doing these things to the railroad? I don't know. But is it a possibility? Absolutely. Are there all these other possibilities? Yeah, but if we don't look at it, if we don't understand it, then how are we ever going to change it? How are we ever going to do anything to support all of this in the highest if we can't understand and look at the lowest? By the way, that thing with that train derailment in the last 6 minutes, this is where I do get righteously angry because I'm really pissed off about this. That was no accident. Go on Netflix, who shares all kinds of lovely things, and look at the movie White Noise. It was actually filmed in East Palestine. It's the same exact thing. A train derailed, a toxic plume comes up, and these people have to evacuate. There's no accidents. There's another part of all of this where the CDC, and I looked this one up, thank you. The CDC, and by the way, when you go to Snopes, just so we're clear, look to see who owns it, because that's where I'm at right now. Snopes, they want to downplay these things. And basically, on February 9th, the CDC added a link on its website to a draft, underlined and bold, draft of an updated version of its existing you know what I'm saying, profile for vinyl chloride, which had been in effect since a previous update in 2006. Not 4 decades ago as claimed. Even so, 2006, we're in 2023. As noted on the access page for the updated profile, this was not a final draft. But seriously, why would you even create a draft and post it on February 9th? Because you want other people who are toxicological profilers, and they're supposed to go in there and look at this. You haven't done it for, 17 years? Not 4 decades. I think it's 17 years. You know I'm bad at math. But the point is, let's make it so the one massive chemical that's going out there that is wildly toxic, let's downgrade it a little bit. You're going to do this right before this movie that you made comes out, and then the actual thing happens in the actual place? How many coincidences before it's like, this is ridiculous? So I watched that movie. Then I got even madder. In that movie, the guy studies Hitler. Number one, it was badly acted. I didn't like it. But the guy is like, I'm not even going to go into it. But he is an expert in Hitler. And then he and the Don Cheadle character. Oh, and by the way, Don Cheadle, are you ready for this? He was in a movie that I watched years ago, and I don't even know why I watched it other than the spirit was like, you got to watch this damn movie. It was such a disturbing movie. Don Cheadle was one of the main characters in that movie as well, and guess what that was? All these sleeper cells here in the United States, all of these people that came in and infiltrated our United States, and they're all sleeper cells, right? And they're all ready to be activated. I forget the name of that movie. If anybody knows the name of that movie, let me know. But Don Cheadle's in this one as well. So in the movie, this White Noise movie now, in the White Noise movie, right before this train has this explosion, they are having this back and forth. It's like a ritual. And then right when the thing hits the crescendo, there goes the train accident. You want to see another version of that? You can go to Bush and watch the video of right before he was told on that day. Same thing. I don't make these things up. I just observe them. And I'm so righteously angry, I'm now talking about them. I didn't do it. I'm just looking, and I'm aware. And I think we all need to be aware there's not any coincidences with all this. And so then, instead of our Biden character coming and being there for the people in your beautiful, beautiful city of East Palestine, he's over there giving them pension money, not coming to help the people who own the train. They wouldn't come because they were afraid for their lives. What the hell is that? You know who showed up today with stuff to help those people? Trump. Trump showed up. There's a video where they're thanking him profusely. Something a little fishy going on here. These people should have been helped from day one. From what I'm understanding, they should still be evacuated. And we could take that money and help them. But no, we're giving pensions over there. What? Obviously, I'm a little, righteous about this. But the good news is, it's going to get resolved. It's in process of being resolved. So the more of us that open our eyes and get it and see and hold it in the highest, that right there alone is powerful. I know I got a little on my high horse today. It's 8 o'clock. Thank you for being with me. And hold it in your prayers. Hold it in your prayers. I am that I am. We are that I am. And this is getting revealed. The light is shining so bright. We're holding it in the highest divine right action. It's taking place. I'm holding gratitude, knowing that it is happening as we speak. We're releasing that word. It's the law. And so it is. Amen. Good night, my lovely friends. I love you very much. I love you too, Jen and Audie. All of you. Hey, Roberta. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, you'll find it interesting when you... Oh, it was called Traitor. Thank you. Yes, Connie. The movie was called... Connie, you're like get the golden star today. Yeah, do check out that movie. Anyway, I'm running a little late. You guys have a good week. And stay warm and toasty if you're living in this area. I'll take pictures if it snows. Love you. Hey, Kirby.